So this morning was a very interesting morning. in the sense that last night went pretty well actually in the beginning and then kind of fell apart. So I went to bed probably around 10 o'clock last night, and then I got up around 1:45 for a feeding, and then from there it went great. I sang my baby the three different songs that I have about her. It was very smooth, it's very relaxed. We were up for about an hour. Like, I was singing the songs, I was playing music. Amazing. My music puts her to sleep, which I think is really cool. My singing puts her to sleep. My music puts her to sleep. I think that's really cool. So it's fine. And then I was messaging people that are international, like some of my subscribers, because it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon for them, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning for me. It was great. I was in bed by 2:40 a.m. From there, I was wide awake until 3:40 a.m. So that's where it started slowly to go downhill. At 3:40, I ended up sleeping on the couch from there because my wife was getting up, and then also the baby was making a lot of noise. So then I went onto the couch and slept on the couch from 3:40, and then I was like, okay, I'm not gonna. My plan was to go to the gym at 5. I was like, I'm exhausted at this point. I'm exhausted. Had I fallen asleep at 2, I would have still had another 2.5 hours of sleep, or 2:30. I would have had 2.5 hours of sleep, and it would have been fine. It would have been totally good. Because I fell asleep at 3:40, almost 4 o'clock, I was like, I can't get up at 5. I'm exhausted. So I was like, let me sleep in. I'm going to skip the gym today. I've actually been really good at going to the gym, so I can afford to skip a day. Whatever, right? At 4:50 in the morning, the baby gets up. So it's time for the next feeding, and I was like, oh. And then she was wide awake, and I was so tired. And I was like, well, I'm not just going to try to rock her to sleep for another hour, because we'd already been up for 45 minutes at this point. So I was like, you're coming into the garden with me. I'm gonna go outside and do something. We went into the greenhouse, and I seeded a bunch of new things with my new seeds. But it was just fun. But I was exhausted, and then at 8 o'clock, I actually in the morning, so we were out there actually at 5:45. From 5:45 until about 7:15 we were out there. Then I had some breakfast, and then around 8 o'clock, I laid down for an hour again. But now, it's just a strange morning. Now I'm on my way into Northport. I have a business meeting with somebody. They had an idea that they wanted to share with me. I spoke to them on the phone about it. That, we said, okay, let's meet and talk a little further, just to kind of see what's up. But what a morning, man. What a morning. So this is something I've been thinking about the past couple days. I'm curious, does anybody know how decaf coffee is made? So I know that the lighter the coffee roast, the more caffeine it has, and the more you cook the roast, the darker it becomes, which means the bolder it becomes, but it also, you cook out the caffeine. So is decaffeinated coffee just really, really, really cooked coffee beans, or what? I don't know, and I'm curious if anybody knows. All right, about 45 minutes later, just wrapped up from that business meeting. The guy had some really cool ideas, and we'll see if anything comes of it. It's one of those things where it's like they had ideas that they brought to me. I said, okay, this is what I would need in order to continue with these ideas. So let me know if it's possible. So we'll see what they say, and we'll take it from there. I'm on my way now to the library because I got to return my book that I got 2 months ago. Honestly, a phenomenal book. I was really surprised at how far I got into. I think I read 175 pages of it. I had 20 pages left, but towards the end of it, it was kind of like a summary essentially of what was happening. It was more talking about George Washington and his legacy now, where it wasn't necessarily about his life. It was a great book, man, honestly. So now on to the next and seeing what comes from there. Did you know that this library right here, 12 years ago, was the place of my first employment? Jacob Restituto, first job, Northport Library. So you want to see something really cool at the library? Look at this. Go to the media section of the Northport Library. You gotta look for R. Jacob Restituto. Once. So like I said, my first job was here at the library, and years later when I had released my first album, I contacted them and it said, hey, it's Jacob, I worked here, what would the process look like of me getting my CD in here? And they hooked it up and they set it up, and now the Jacob Restituto CD can be taken out from the Northport Library. Well, don't mind the asparagus I have in my gar. from my parents' garden yesterday. So that was a very interesting experience. When I first get there, I return the book, and then I say, go up to the circulation area, which is where I return the book, and I was like, hey, do you know where I can find the biography section? And they're like, oh, you're gonna have to talk to reference. I'm like, okay, whatever, no problem. So I go up to the reference desk. I'm like, I ask actually about a book by Rick Rubin, the unbelievable music producer, which they put me on a wait list for. So then I just kind of walked away because I thought I knew where again, I used to work here, so I thought I knew where the autobiography or the biography section was. Couldn't find it. Go back to the reference desk. They're on a phone call. They're on a phone call for a while. So I'm like, I'll just keep looking around. The library's not that big. Whatever. Then I remember that I saw like a page, which is what I used to be, an employee, like a kid, working there in the media section. So I was like, when I was showing you my CD, I remember that there was somebody there. So I was like, I will go back there, and I was like, hey, do you know where I can find the nonfiction biography section? And again, they're like, oh, you're gonna have to talk to reference. I'm like, bro. I was just confused by it. Meanwhile, I found it on my own. It was literally one row over from where I was talking to the girl. I was like, you couldn't have just said, oh, it's literally right here? It was very strange encounter. That being said, I spent a couple minutes kind of just culling through the different books, and I decided on Bob Dylan. I know that he has a very interesting history in the sense of like he actually got some. Most people don't know this. He actually got some serious pushback when he switched over his genre. He used to be a folk musician with like a very acoustic folk musician, and he switched over to a bit more rock and used an electric guitar. And I think he got booed off stage, and now he's a music icon. So I appreciate that boldness to follow his passion. So it's a big book though. So it's a bit of a commitment. We'll see what happens. The font is pretty big though, which is cool, but we'll see what happens.